Sex. Sex is just one word, but typically, when most of us hear that word, we feel uncomfortable. I'm not out of it because for me too, whenever I heard the word sex, just like the way our culture has made it seem, it makes you uncomfortable. But why is that? Why do we get uncomfortable when we hear the word sex? It's something we don't talk about. It's something we've put guilt, shame around it. It's just labeled as sin. It's one of the highest taboo topics, if not the top taboo topics in our African community. Nobody told us the truth about sex. I'm Ashley Kusianga. Let's get into it. Guys, I really told you from the first video, I am not doing this by myself. So I am walking my God given mandate with God by my side. And if you listening to this video, you think about somebody, you feel like, oh, this is going to resonate for this person, or you've had a conversation and you feel like this might provide insight. I'm basically here to fill a need. So go ahead and share the video, subscribe for more videos like this so we can keep pushing the envelope, we can keep pushing the word and getting it out there so we as a community can be empowered and we will just be all the better for it. So what is this truth about sex that nobody told us about? One of the biggest things is we believe that sex is man-made. Sex is something that it's been secularized. It's been created like, oh, it's of the world and it is for the world. But that's not true. Sex actually has a creator, and that creator is God. And in the right context, in the context in which it was designed, sex is not shameful. Sex is not sinful. Sex is not something to be guilty for thinking about it or for talking about it. Sex is something beautiful. It's something intimate. It's something that brings joy. It's something that actually it brings you closer. What is the right context? The right context of sex is marriage. So, sex was designed by God for intimacy, procreation, and unity. In Genesis chapter 2, verses 24, that is why a man leaves his father and mother and is united to his wife, and they become one flesh. Intimacy, procreation, unity. Sex is a divine gift from God. I was recently having a conversation, correct? And this lady was like, how would your husband be able to sit and carry a conversation with your daughter and tell her, oh, this is what sex is about. This is what you should be thinking about it. Like, he would be uncomfortable. And again, like I said, we all get uncomfortable around the topic of sex because we're trying to do it on our own. We're trying to explain the world's definition of sex. But if we were to take it back to the divinity, to the creator of it, then we actually are able to articulate ourselves better because the worldview is so confusing. Everybody has their own definition, their own description of what sex is supposed to be or of what sex means. And one of the things that pushes people away, did you know that Africa has the highest teen pregnancies? Like our average is double the global average. But we seem to think we are the most religious. We seem to think our kids are the ones who are not having sex. We seem to think just because we tell our kids, um, don't have sex, sex is for marriage, it means that they will not have sex. We don't take on the responsibility to educate them on what actually happens or on what this gift of sex is. We just say, don't do it, don't talk about it. We build this culture of shame around it. We build this culture of, oh, it's a taboo conversation where we nurture ignorant kids, and then we go into marriage. Maybe your auntie will tell you, oh, just do what your husband tells you on your wedding night, if they have stayed until the marriage. Or we're going to tell the women, it's like, just make sure you're pleasing your husband. Those are the things that we say, and it becomes stereotypical, and people get into their marriages, or people start having sex just, and it becomes mechanical. It's not intimate, it's not emotional, and it's just something where a lot, and I'll say this because it's more gender based, where a lot of women do not want to have sex. They don't feel any pleasure or any joy from having sex. It's just one of those things where it's just, let him come and do his business, get his pleasure, and be over and done with it. But that is not what it was meant to be. Again, it was supposed to be for intimacy between the man and his woman, to procreate, for us to bring forth children into the world, and for unity, because you're becoming one flesh as a couple. It's supposed to bring blessings. It's supposed to bring joy. It's supposed to bring fulfillment. It's not just supposed to be something that is for one person, that brings um I don't mean that brings contentment to one party, and then the other party is just there for the other person's pleasure. If we know anything about God, is that He is good, and everything He creates is actually good. So why will something that He created be intended to bring hurt to one, and not even for total contentment to the other party? Because if it just becomes mechanical, then we're not even touching into the divinity of it. To further articulate that, in Proverbs chapter 5, verse 18 to 19, let your fountain be blessed, and rejoice in the wife of your youth. May you ever be intoxicated with her love. That furthers the point. Sex is celebrated as good and joyful when enjoyed between God's design. So, let me tell you a story. My daughter, she pointed at my breast and she was like, this is mommy's stomach. And she was smiling and laughing. Honestly, that made me uncomfortable, and it got me thinking, should I tell her that is not mommy's stomach? Because there's certain body parts we've created this shame around, right? Where don't talk about it. We know it's there, but don't verbalize it. So I was uncomfortable. I sat in that discomfort and I did some research, which is one thing about our culture. We Africans, we don't do research, which we should really change, so that we can be more educated and more informed. So when we go about things, we're more confident, when we to know, like, okay, this is what I should be doing, this is what is appropriate. Because one of the things that made me uncomfortable is, I didn't know, oh, when she goes to daycare, if she were to point at someone's breast, correct, and say, oh, and if I corrected her and told her, oh, those are actually breasts and not stomach, and not a stomach, when she goes, will she be the odd one out? Would that make her feel displaced? But in my research, I actually found out from 3 to 5 years old, we should be actually using the proper terms for each body part. We should tell them, this is your breast, this is your vagina, this is your penis. We should tell them, this is a private part, this is a public part. Because when we start from young cultivating that shame, that silence around those body parts, then the kids believe that, oh, this is something that is shameful, this is something that is not talked about. I don't even know what this actual body part is. Where we could say, oh, to teenagers, don't if a boy touches you, you're going to get pregnant. Okay, a boy touches my arm, I didn't get pregnant, and I don't even know that, oh, this is my breast, this is my vagina, nobody should be touching it, because we haven't done the work to educate them that these are those parts. So if they touch my arm and I did not get pregnant, and I don't know that my breast or my vagina is something that is private and should not be touched, I'll let them touch it, and then I get pregnant, and then it correlates to a teen pregnancy. And then instead of us to take that as a point to start educating our kids, we instead use it as a topic of gossip, a point of conversation. We're not trying to educate, we're still just creating this room of silence, this cycle of shame, and that is what we keep promoting. And that is why our culture, our continent has the highest rate of teen pregnancy. It has a very big rate of discontent marriages, because the women are not content. The women are not content in their sex lives, which promotes this conflict in marriage, where maybe the woman does not want to have sex just because she's not feeling up to it. It's not something that we've cultivated to actually be for what all God intended it to be. So when we're having these conversations with our kids, we're talking about the beauty of it, what it was intended for. This will not be a good conversation if we don't actually accept the fact that maybe a mistake will happen. Maybe you will feel, you might feel pressured because everybody around you is having sex. Maybe your 18-year-old friends, your 16-year-old friends are actually talking about having sex or things like that in schools. So what are we doing as a parent? If we have created that openness, correct? If we have created that room for conversation with our kids, where our kids know that there's actually a time and place for this to take place, where they know that, because almost 100% of us are going to engage in sex. It's not a question. It's a given, unless for people who have given it up for celibacy reasons, or they don't feel like they want to have sex or things. But almost 100% of the world's population is going to engage in sex. So if this is something that is going to happen, we have to do the work to talk about it and educate ourselves about it. And if no one educated you about it, that really sucked. However, we cannot continue just making excuses for um, cultivating this silence, that this cycle of silence in our community. We have to take on that responsibility and do the work and have these conversations. So we should stop trying to do it on our own and by ourselves. We should actually talk about the beauty of sex, the time and place for it, and acknowledge that there's going to be pressures out there. And if you are feeling pressured, this is something that you can talk to me as your parent about. We could try to understand why you're feeling like you want to have sex now. Why you're not feeling like, you know what, this is something that I want to wait until marriage to do. We can start having those conversations on like, oh, maybe, oh, mom, that's just your belief. Your belief is about it being waiting until marriage. Dad, your belief is about it waiting until marriage. But I don't really believe the same thing that you do. When we create this room for open conversations, then we can actually help our kids to make better informed decisions. We can understand and help them to know that, okay, if you don't believe this, then what is it that you actually believe? We're not reprimanding them for bringing up those conversations. We're not making them feel ashamed for having those thoughts because those thoughts are natural. We are sexual beings. Those thoughts are natural. So we shouldn't be reprimanding them and pushing them down or telling them to be silent and telling them, oh, good children, don't talk about sex. That is so wrong, and that is doing them a disservice because now that knowledge gap that you as a parent is not filling, they're going to find outside sources to fill it up. And you don't know what those outside sources contain. It's going to either contain the world's own warped view of it. So it might be uncomfortable to start, but it's a necessary tool to give your child so they can make better and more informed decisions, and they can come to you when those thoughts start being more dominant in your mind, so you can actually walk them through it. And you might say, oh, nobody walked me through it, but how did that really turn out for you? Be honest. How When did you start having sex? How is your sex if you're married? How is your sex life if you're not married and you're having sex? How beautiful are you finding that experience? Because we tend to be like, oh no, that side of it is not for me. Like the godly part of it is not for me. But truly, are you really getting the contentment that we're supposed to be having? Because we've made it so mechanical and so um, methodical, but is that really what it was intended to be? And we cannot just shame people, guilt people, and tell them that it's sinful, and not tell them that, you know what, if you were to falter, if you were to make a mistake, all hope is not lost. Yes, we don't want to take advantage of God's grace, but God's grace is sufficient for all of us. So if our child or our sister or sibling or even ourselves, you know what? We did not wait. We actually went ahead and had sex. Then we have to remember in First John chapter 1 verse 9, if we confess our sins, he is faithful and just and will forgive us our sins and purify us from all unrighteousness. Guys, all hope really is not lost. So when educating our kids or ourselves, we need to acknowledge the point that maybe you wouldn't wait. Just maybe you're going to go ahead and have sex, but know that God is forgiving of our sins. He doesn't want you to sin, but he knows our human frailties. So we have started by making our from young, telling them, you know what, this is not something we should be ashamed to talk about. There is a time and there is a place. We have built that room for openness, trust, and honest conversation, where we have created room for kids to come and talk to us whenever they start having these feelings or start having these thoughts. And we're also acknowledging that they might feel pressured and they might give into those pressures, but all hope is not lost. That is a well rounded and that is a very empowering conversation that we don't just have one time. We create room and space to keep having them. That really builds mentally capable and strong kids who turn out to be positive about themselves and confident about their choices and their decisions. And when they eventually enter into a marriage, They know what the expectations are from both sides. We're teaching our men to take care of their wives as much as we're teaching our women to take care of their husbands. We're teaching them that sex is supposed to bring joy, it's supposed to promote intimacy between both parties, and it is overall a blessing, not something that we're supposed to be ashamed of. It's truly a blessing to ourselves and to the generations that are coming after us to start having these conversations, to start changing the narrative, because we've really made it to be something of the world, but that isn't what it was created for. In our we're supposed to teach these things in churches, in schools, in our homes. We're supposed to have in our friend groups, in our groups with our siblings. We should talk about things like this, because this is what is going to empower us to know what, oh, I'm not bad, or I'm not wrong for having sexual thoughts, or for thinking about it, for having curiosities. However, when acted upon in the designs that it was created for, it is truly beautiful, and it's something that we should anticipate and we should hope for. I will be particular to women. A lot of us were not taught about sex. A lot of us, whenever we started having sex, right? Or maybe you're in a marriage right now where your sex life is really not up to par. Honestly, I truly believe it. It's all hope is not lost. We have to do the work. We have to take on that responsibility of educating ourselves. We have to have those conversations with ourselves to find out what is not working for us. What about this makes me uncomfortable? When we now know what is making us uncomfortable, this is for those in the marriage, then we can have that conversation now with our partners. Start slow. Start realizing, okay, maybe this is my preconception about it. This is what I want to change about it. Because it's truly a gift, and God's gift is beautiful, and we should lean into that beauty, and we should know that it was supposed to be joyful, not painful. It's supposed to bring happiness. Whenever our husbands maybe want to have sex or things like that, it should not be a time when it's like that. Those are moments that we dread, right? If that was your case, if that is your case, you can change that. First, by you acknowledging what seems to be that mental block, how it is that you want to navigate, how you want to change it, and then working with our spouses in order for us to actually bring to life our sex lives. Maybe you're a young lady, you don't know what to hope for in sex. Maybe you've just been told all the things about how it's for men, just please your husband, just please the man, or things like that. And you're curious, and you don't believe that that's how it should be. You're right. It should not be like that. It should be, like, when in the right design, which is marriage, you should enjoy sex. It should be something that is beautiful and intimate. So you're on the right track, and just make sure in your choosing of a partner, these are conversations that you have where forget the narrative that no, don't talk about sex. You have to talk about your expectations, your sexual expectations for marriage with the person that you're eventually going to get married to. So you are on the same page, so that you know that, oh, this person is actually going to be thinking about my needs, and you thinking about your needs too. If you're a parent and you haven't had this conversation with your kids, honestly, it's time to start. I know you might be dreading it, but bite the bullet. Honestly, go for it and take it from the perspective, from God's perspective, not the world's perspective. The reason why we're so adamant talking about it is because we don't even believe in the world's perspective. So it's like it's so confusing. What am I telling my child? But God's perspective is straightforward. So start from there. As a young man, honestly, or a man in marriage, maybe you just go about your business, but love your wife. That's what the command says. Where take care of your wife is not just about your pleasure, it's about your woman's pleasure as well. It's about both of your pleasures, you both taking care of each other. Sex, I know, has been framed in this culture as, in our society, oh, it's just for you, the honors are on you, but that's not true. It's not just for you. It's not just about you, the man. It's not just you who's supposed to make it happen. No, it's for both parties. So think about the things that we can work on changing. What are the things, and be open with your wife. I feel like you're never interested. I feel like, and those are those open, vulnerable conversations that actually help us as a people get into alignment. I have I truly, honestly believe that with conversations like this, our homes are going to be happier. Our children are going to be much more open with us. Honestly, talking about sex does not promote promiscuity. That is the lie we have been told. Talking about sex educates, it prevents, and it protects. That is the goal. And isn't it just beautiful to be able to empower each other, to be able to have fuller and more joyful homes, more open and trustworthy conversations? Isn't that just what life is supposed to be about? I am so grateful for you being here, for taking the time to listen to this. If you have any thoughts, if you have any experience that you want to share with our community here, please don't hesitate to comment in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Let me know if this resonated with you. Thank you so much. I am so grateful for you, and I do not take you for granted. I will see you 1 week from today.